One of the most interesting builds that I wanted to craft, that I wanted to make, was a Paladin build, which essentially it's a melee attacker that it has lots of tools, not only for actual combat but also for contextual actions and for making people believe what you want for them to believe. Many a times I have found that in many occasions, like the dialogue options do not really change that many things, but I have been successful on bypassing a lot of boss fights that I didn't want to do, because your persuasion ability, your persuasion skills opens a whole bunch of dialogue options that allow you for more versatility and for you to make you feel that like a Jedi or a Paladin space knight, making everyone think how you would want for them to think. And not only that, but we also have like contextual actions for some things that are going to be benefiting not only the melee side of combat and everything in here, but also opening doors, because that's part of a build. That's what I like to focus on. I like for the builds not only be combat efficient, I also like to have access to different places of the world that you otherwise wouldn't be able to open. Like for example, with the stealth sniper, we have lock picking that allows us to open locked doors. We're also going to have some of that right in here. Now this is the early game version of the build, so in early game you don't actually have that many mods so that we can tinker into stuff, but it should give you an idea of how you would go about in the first region of the game. It's very easy to set this guy on the first region of the game, specifically because we have access to the Thunderstruck. The Thunderstruck has a heavy attack with this weapon that will send forward a thunderous projectile to shock foes. Not only that, but there's also a perk that we're going to be taking later on that it is going to be stacking with this, and they deal a huge and humongous amounts of damage that gives you lots of AoE, and this is a very high damaging weapon that it is going to more often than not be one-shotting enemies that you have out there. And like I mentioned, you can get this on the first region of the game, and as a matter of fact, you can just bypass everything once you get into the first region of the game, go get this weapon and get everything started. Now the second thing that you're going to be needing is going to be a heavy armor. Now it does not matter how much of a heavy armor that you get. This one I like because I like to have that kind of like imperial look of for my character, for like in Imperial God Captain from Warhammer 40k. As a matter of fact, this enhances that look. That's why I have this this cap right in here. Although you shouldn't really have this, because it's not going to give you that much benefit of the build. It's just that I love Warhammer 40k and I love for my character to look something like an Imperial like that. Things that you would actually use on the helmet would be like the Engineer hat that would give you more base health, and then riot control helmet that would give you more critical hit chance and critical hit damage, which it looks kind of cool as well. And remember that this is stuff like that you can untoggle so that your helmet does not show up. This would be like the base. We're not talking about the mods because this is like the early version of it. I haven't gotten any mods for this character yet. However, once you reach Sub Rosa, which is the region that you would gain access to once you get access to the second region of the game, you do have a couple of them that I do not think that they would make it for like the final build on itself, but it is a nice idea to have like this guy right in here that while you're afflicted by a damage type debuff, you emit that damage of that type to the foes of the area around you, and since more often than not you are going to be the target, yeah, this is a little bit more like dealing damage to the enemies that are dealing damage to you. It is also very important as well that you have Valerie for your companions. It does not really matter that much the companions that you're going to have right in here, but Valerie is going to be a huge important part of this build because she is going to heal you and you're going to be eating lots of damage, so you need sustainability. Later on, as you level up, there's a perk that it is going to give you, make you basically immortal, but on early game levels you do need for Valerie to be helping you out. On top of that, you have to go immediately to do the quest for the gas energy deflection apparatus, which is basically overshield. And then again, you're going to be on the face of the enemy, you're always going to be like on the front lines, so you do want to have as much survivability as possible. I haven't used that many of my inhalers at all, because usually the damage, even for fighting bosses and elite enemies, the things that suffer the damage before you can kill them, it's Valerie healing you and using the gas energy deflection apparatus. Now this is where it gets interesting, because right in here, this is where your Paladin starts to make more sense, and this is why I thought that it was just so fun making a Paladin. Melee is going to give you more melee damage, and it is also going to give you less damage to receive while you're blocking. You're basically going to need melee because you're a Paladin at the end of the day. So yeah, there's that. Engineering is going to increase the overall effectiveness of your armor, and it is going to be giving you flat damage resistance to any type of damage. So when you're combining this guy right in here and you use some heavy armor, you are going to be receiving so much less damage, and that is going to be additive with your deflective shields and all of the healing that you're going to have right in here. On top of that, later on we're going to be talking about some perks that you're going to be taking as you level up that are basically going to turn you into an immortal machine. And then the final thing for the role-playing aspect of everything is going to be speech right in here, which is not only going to be affecting the role-playing value of everything, but also the combat efficiency. Now, in here you can make a concession. For a Paladin to make sense, you could either take speech or leadership, which both of them are going to give you access to opening some dialogue options. And this is going to give your companions more effectiveness, and since you're going to be drawing the attention, they're basically going to be supporting you. And leadership does have a couple of options for dialogue as well. However, if you really want to be like that charismatic character that you would think of for a Paladin or a Space Paladin, speech is what you would be taking, because this is not only going to be increasing your damage to humans, it's also going to be increasing your damage flat. And it's also going to give you the more options to turn people to think however you would want for them to think. That is more often going to be coming from the perks that we're going to be choosing right in here. The first ones that I should advise for you to take, it's Bullet Shield. This is a general perk, but it's very useful early on when you don't have that many points and you are trying to get that gear, you're trying to get those weapons, it is very difficult. I do have to say that it is very difficult at the beginning of the game to be on the face of the enemy, so you might as well be using like some range combat or distance combat for a little while until you're established. But Bullet Shield is definitely going to be helping quite a lot. Now, the heavy-handed, this is hugely important as well, because it basically CCs the enemies for every 10 seconds. And more often than not, you're going to be doing heavy damage, like charging your heavy attacks for the most damage that you have right in here. Tinker, I shouldn't have taken this one right in here because you're not going to be tinkering with modding early on. So my advice is that you change this one for the Space Ranger. Now the Space Ranger is going to give you flat 2.5% more damage per speech skill, meaning that once you reach this guy to 20, that is going to be flat general overall 50% more damage, which is amazing. This is also very important run here because it's going to give you plus flat 50% damage on your next hit after running, and you can just be running like a maniac and triggering this over and over and over again. This is going to be stacking. It's going to be plus 50% damage of the weapon damage with the overall cone zone damage, but it's also going to be stacking with the shock damage that your weapon that we talked about has. Now, while I do think that the Space Ranger is going to be the most important one of them all, and that I don't think that these guys have that much effectiveness when it comes to combat, there's a couple of them that actually do, like for example the Intimidator. The Intimidator is going to make for weak humans or creatures to be frightened whenever you deal damage to them. Basically turn the undead from a regular paladin. The same thing happens with the Grim Visage. Every time that you kill something, it is going to cause for humans or creatures to be frightened of you and fleeing. It is very important in this game because it just gives you time to recover, to deal more damage, to separate them, and it basically turns you into a paladin. That basically this is like the basic form of turn the undead that you would have on your regular D&D game. Not only that, but the wholesale spender, the charlatan, the intimidator, the space ranger, all of these guys are dialogue options that are going to open dialogue options for you to make NPCs think how you would want for them to think. Aside from that, Lucky Strike's pretty much it's DPS, the final one that you're going to be taking because it requires from 20 melee points. Duelist. This is going to allow you to perfect block. Very important, although however you can take this at your discretion. And then tit for that, this is the most important one of them all. My advice is that you need 7 perks for this to be able to be picked. So you're going to be able to pick this guy at level 14, I believe, or even 16. This is what you should be prioritizing as soon as you can. As soon as you're able to take this guy right in here, please do, because this is going to make you immortal. It's going to be healing you for 25% of damage dealt by melee weapons. And with all of the stacking for damage that we have, this means that it is going to be healing you for about, let's say, if you dealt a 400 damage hit, which is something that you can by all means do, it's going to be giving you back 100 points in health. The health in this game is balanced to some extent so that enemies don't really have that much health, nor you, like the values aren't that high, but eventually you can be dealing like 1k damage hits, and that's something that can happen very early on, and that's going to be 250 hits, meaning that you're going to be healing like 25% of your health, and if you're spamming hits, this is basically going to turn you immortal. This paladin is very powerful once you reach higher levels in the game. The master armor is going to allow you to add a second slot for modding to your armor, meaning that you can have resistance to 2 damage types instead of just 1, and that is very important because you're going to be much more durable right in here. Like I mentioned, this is a very powerful character that can start working just fine from the very early stages of the game to later stages of the game. I have been having tons of fun with this character, and it's just brain dead how much things that it can be power strike killing, and the fact that you have so much access to contextual actions because of the speech. And I didn't mention that it also has access to open contextual doors in the world because you're using engineering, and many of the locked doors that you wouldn't be able to lockpick or use explosives to open them, you can bypass them with engineering. There's many puzzles in this game that you can bypass with engineering, so you basically have a perfect, well-rounded character right in here. If you like the content, you like it, it's super appreciated. Nostalgia today, you gorgeous and beautiful person. You're indeed a gorgeous and beautiful person. Subscribe to the channel. You're in Discord. Have a beautiful thing. Goodbye.